So, what happens when two of the biggest names in open source software get into a massive public fight? Well, you get a full-blown identity crisis. And this isn't just some spat on social media, you know? This is a battle over the very meaning of the word open, and it could change how the software that powers our entire digital world gets made.
And it all really kicked off with this quote from David Heinemeier Hansson. You probably know him as DHH, the guy who created Ruby on Rails. Just by saying this, by kind of brushing off decades of community agreement, he basically lit a match and threw it into a haystack.
Okay, so let's set the stage with our contenders. On one side, you've got DHH, the brain behind Ruby on Rails, a framework that powers a ton of websites. And on the other side, Matt Mullenweg, the founding developer of WordPress, the platform that runs something like 40% of the entire internet. I mean, these are absolute titans of the tech world. When they talk, people listen.
And you know what started this whole heavyweight fight? It wasn't some huge philosophical disagreement or some grand plan. Nope, it was the release of a single new software tool.
So DHH and his team launched this new tool called Fizzy. And in the announcement, he called it open source. That phrase, those two little words, that's what set everything off.
The whole problem is buried in the license Fizzy was released under. It's called the OSASI license. And here's the key detail, the one that matters. It has a rule that stops anyone from taking the code and launching their own competing cloud service with it.
And that's the problem. See, the official, long-standing definition of open source, the one the whole community has agreed on for years, has a golden rule. You cannot restrict how people use the software, and that includes using it for commercial stuff. DH's license does exactly that. It breaks the rule.
And right away, this disagreement just splits the room, right? It shows that there are two totally different ways of thinking about what the word open is even supposed to mean when we're talking about software.
And this is where you can see the two camps so clearly. For DHH, it's dead simple. If you can see the source code, hey, it's open source. That's it. But the official view, well, that's a whole different ballgame. It's not just about seeing the code. It's a legal and ethical framework. And a huge part of it is that anyone has the freedom to use and sell the software.
So this is when Matt Mullenweg steps into the ring. And his argument is basically that words have meaning, right? You can't just take a term that everybody understands and change its definition to suit you. His analogy, okay, it's maybe a little intense, but you get his point. Calling something open source when it doesn't fit the definition is, well, misleading.
But as this thing blew up online, it started to feel like maybe this isn't really about definitions at all. Maybe there's something much, much bigger going on underneath the surface.
It really forces you to ask the question, are we really just fighting over semantics here, or is this whole argument just a symptom of a much deeper problem that nobody really wants to talk about? And honestly, this analogy just nails it perfectly. The debate over what to call things, while it's important, is a total distraction from the real crisis, from the fire that's burning through the entire open source world.
So what is that fire? What's the crisis that everyone's ignoring while they argue? It all comes down to one word: sustainability. How do these incredible projects that we all depend on actually survive? This gets us to what's known as the free rider problem. And look, it's exactly what it sounds like. You've got these massive, super profitable companies building their entire empires on top of free, open source software, but they give little or nothing back to the people who are actually doing the hard work of building and maintaining it.
And when you look at it through that lens, everything changes. DHH's controversial license, it suddenly doesn't seem like a mistake or like he didn't know the rules. It looks like a deliberate experiment, a provocative attempt to find a new way to actually make a project financially stable.
If you look at the logic, you can see what he's trying to do. He wants to keep the good parts of open source, share the code, let people tinker with it, but by blocking direct competitors from just spinning up a copycat service, he's trying to carve out a path for his own company to make money and keep funding the project for the long haul. So why are these two guys coming at this from such different angles? Well, you just have to look at where they're standing. DHS has Fizzy. It's a brand new project, it's a blank slate, he's free to try out radical new ideas. But Matt, well, he has WordPress. It's over 20 years old. It's an institution, and changing its core lessons now would be a massive, practically impossible undertaking.
So if arguing about words isn't the solution, and everyone's in a different boat, what's the actual way forward here? Well, first off, let's just get the language right. There's already a perfectly good name for what DHH did with Fizzy's license. It's called source available. It just means you can see the source code, you can modify it, you can use it, but with some rules attached.
It's super generous, it's really useful, it's just not open source by the definition everyone's agreed on.
But here's the real takeaway. Calling something by a different name doesn't actually fix the underlying economic problem. The really hard work here isn't about inventing new labels. It's about finding a business model that actually works, one that lets these amazing projects grow without getting eaten alive by free riders.
And that hard work? Man, it leads to some really tough questions. Questions the whole tech industry has to start asking. Like, how do you tell the difference between a small startup that literally can't afford to contribute and a billion-dollar company that just won't? And what actually gets these companies to change their behavior? Is it public shaming, appealing to their bottom line, or do we need something with more teeth, like regulation?
At the end of the day, this whole entire debate really boils down to this one fundamental question. To keep the open source world that we all rely on healthy, what's the more powerful motivator for a big corporation? Is it shame or is it self-interest? And right now, that's the billion-dollar question that nobody has an answer to.